Fake HOA officers target black woman jogging, not knowing she was CIA. Stop right there. Who do you think you are? The words sliced through the stillness of the morning like a blade. This wasn't some random outburst, and it definitely wasn't a cranky neighbor blowing off steam. No, those words were aimed directly at Naomi. She had just finished her 5th lap, earbuds in, moving at her steady pace. Confused, she slowed and turned, her brows knitting as if she needed to double-check whether the man was really talking to her. But there was no mistake, he was. A stranger stood squarely in her path, wearing an oversized security vest. His arms were crossed, chest puffed out like he'd just caught someone red-handed. Naomi tugged out one earbud and asked evenly, "Excuse me, can I help you?" The man stepped closer, lowering his sunglasses, jaw working as he chewed his gum like he was rehearsing for some cheap cop drama. "This is a no-running zone. You're trespassing," he declared, flicking his gaze toward another guard nearby. That second guard stood stiff and silent, nodding mechanically, like one of those dashboard bobbleheads. Naomi had been jogging this same route for 3 years. Never once had anyone complained. There were no signs, no warnings, no rules against it. Every morning she waved to Mr. Whitaker, watering his roses, slipped Mrs. Alvarez's beagle a treat, and kept her rhythm along the sidewalk without issue. But today, her routine suddenly felt like a crime scene. She tried to brush it off, kept jogging, but both men moved in behind her. 2 fresh HOA security recruits, boots still shiny, clipboards clutched like props in a play. Naomi stopped again, this time frustrated. "Seriously, I live here. I'm just running. I do this every morning." That's when the second guard finally spoke, his voice stiff, rehearsed. "This is private property, ma'am. HOA rules forbid unauthorized activity. We need to verify your identity. Have you ever been treated like a suspect in your own neighborhood? What would you have done if you were in Naomi's shoes? Before we continue, what city or country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments below. We love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. And if you believe in standing up to fake authority and bullying, hit that like button and subscribe to us, because some fights aren't about rules at all. They're about respect." Naomi let out a short, sharp laugh, more disbelief than humor. "Unauthorized? For running? I didn't realize fresh air was against the law." The first guard stepped closer, his tone harder now. "Please don't make this difficult. We just need to confirm you belong here." And that's when Naomi realized it wasn't confusion. This was deliberate. This was harassment. She kept her voice steady. "I live 2 blocks down. You can follow me. I'll show you my ID. No problem." But both guards shook their heads in unison. "No, ma'am. We can't let you move any further until you prove your identity." Think about that for a second. Their logic made no sense. Naomi wasn't allowed to walk home to prove she lived there, because she hadn't already proven she lived there. Pure nonsense. By now, the 2 guards had boxed her in, treating her less like a resident and more like a suspect. Their clipboards hung at their sides like props, smug looks frozen on their faces. What they didn't realize was Naomi wasn't someone they could intimidate. She wasn't just another jogger. Naomi worked for the CIA, active, not retired. Of course, she had zero intention of revealing that badge unless it was absolutely necessary. But anyone with an ounce of common sense should have backed off after she'd already offered a peaceful solution. Naomi tried once more, her voice steady but edged with warning. "Look, I'm just heading home. Come with me. I'll show you whatever proof you need." Instead of listening, the first guard pressed the button on his cheap walkie-talkie, speaking like he was starring in some low-budget action film. "We've got a non-compliant female suspect," he announced. Stretching the word female like that was the highlight of his report. "Requesting backup." Backup for what? This wasn't a battlefield. This was Naomi's neighborhood, the same streets she'd run for years. Yet here they were, treating it like a video game HOA edition. It was obvious these guys were rookies, probably washed-out ex-cops or failed recruits desperate to flex authority they didn't actually have. But behind them, pulling the strings, was the real problem. Deborah Clean, the notorious HOA president. Deborah had a reputation. She ruled the neighborhood with an iron grip, nitpicking over every tiny rule, her sharp tongue sparking fear in homeowners. She was the type who'd file a complaint about squirrels being too noisy. And Naomi? Deborah had it out for her over something as petty as the color of her running gear. This wasn't random. Deborah had sent these guards to provoke a scene. But what she didn't realize was that this time, the story wouldn't play out in her favor. Naomi gave them one final warning. "If you don't follow me peacefully, you're going to regret it." They laughed. One of them even sneered, "And what exactly are you gonna do? Outrun us?" Naomi's lips curved into the faintest smile. Something like that. The air grew heavier, the tension pressing down on the quiet street. Any guard with sense would have backed off right then. But instead, ego overpowered reason. Naomi shook her head. "I'm done with this nonsense. I'm going home." She stepped back, turned slightly, and began to walk away. That should have been the end. But Grant Doyle, the stocky guard with the buzz-cut and neon vest, made a mistake he'd never forget. He lunged, reaching to grab her arm. Too slow. Before his hand even closed, Naomi pivoted with precision. Her palm shot forward, slamming into his chest with shocking force. The air cracked with the impact. Grant hit the ground hard, flat on his back, like a bag of bricks. His clipboard flew from his hands, skidding helplessly across the pavement. The second guard, Terrence Cole, shouted, "Ma'am, don't make this worse for yourself," before charging forward. But Naomi didn't even blink. He lunged, aiming to grab her arms, only for her to catch his wrist midair, twist it sharply, and use his own momentum against him. In an instant, Terrence hit the ground face first in the grass, groaning in defeat. The third guard, Evan Mills, skinny and jittery, had been hanging back the whole time, clearly unsure of himself. But after seeing his coworkers sprawled out, his nerves turned into false courage. "You're in big trouble," he barked, clutching his radio like it was some kind of weapon. Naomi didn't rush. She walked toward him with calm precision, her ponytail swaying with each step. Evan panicked and reached for her shoulder. Bad move. Naomi ducked under his arm, swept her leg clean across, and sent him crashing onto the sidewalk. He rolled along the concrete, clutching his ribs and whimpering in pain. From across the street, a neighbor gasped loudly enough for everyone to hear. And then, the moment every confrontation dreads, the phone came up, recording, every second captured. Naomi straightened her stance, adjusted her ponytail, and muttered just loud enough, "I warned them." And there it was. 3 grown men scattered across the pavement, groaning, broken pride spilling heavier than their injuries. Not one of them could explain how the morning flipped so quickly. Neighbors began peeking out from porches, frozen between shock and awe. Some whispered, some just stared. But no one could look away. The woman they thought was just an ordinary jogger had just exposed skill none of them ever expected to see. Naomi's secret wasn't out, but her abilities had spoken loud enough. She didn't wait for applause. Naomi glanced at the guards one last time, then walked off with the same calm stride she had started with, as though this was just another lap. The so-called enforcers were left scattered and humiliated, their neon vests and radios worthless now. By the time Naomi reached her front door, the story was already exploding online. The neighbors who had been recording wasted no time uploading the clips. Every flip, every takedown, replayed in slow motion, set to dramatic music, plastered across social feeds. Notifications buzzed as comments poured in by the second, Some cheered her on, calling her a hero. Others were furious at the harassment she had endured. But no matter the opinion, everyone agreed on one thing. What they had just witnessed was unbelievable. And for Naomi, this wasn't entertainment. This was a message. It was more than just a viral clip. It was evidence, undeniable proof of how quickly authority can be twisted when it falls into the wrong hands. Proof of how simple rules meant to protect can be weaponized when aimed at the wrong person. Naomi sat quietly, phone in hand, her expression calm, collected. Then she made a single call, just one. The ripple effect was instant. Within 10 minutes, the security company was in full-blown crisis mode. Their phones blew up with reporters, angry homeowners, and neighbors demanding answers. The story spread faster than they could possibly contain it. 2 hours later, the verdict was in. Grant Doyle, Terrence Cole, and Evan Niels gone, stripped of their vests, their clipboards, their so-called authority. Their short-lived power had evaporated overnight. And then came Deborah Clean, the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA. She tried to spin it, accusing Naomi of unprovoked aggression, crying disrespect. But the footage told the truth louder than any of her excuses. Neighbors had seen it, the internet had seen it, and there was no way to rewrite what the cameras had already captured. The plan Deborah had set in motion to humiliate Naomi had flipped completely, exposing her as the true instigator. What was meant to be Naomi's downfall became Deborah's own. From that day forward, the neighborhood changed. People who once looked away now looked out for each other. The unspoken fear that had lingered under Deborah's rule was gone. Nobody dared to pull discriminatory stunts disguised as rules again. Naomi hadn't asked for recognition, but she became a symbol, a reminder that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's calm, sharp, and decisive. And sometimes all it takes is one phone call to end years of intimidation. The HOA's reign of fear crumbled that day, and Naomi made sure it would never rise again. If you believe standing up to fake authority is always worth it, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that expose bullies and put them back in their place.